The following presentation is brought to you by the Realm Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this edition of Vixens Who Rule. Listen, I have one of my favorites on the show today, but there's a little heat. There's a couple of bones to pick. We're going to get the heat out of the way up top because I want to be able to put her back at the top of my list. Like right now, listen, if here's the top, like here's the middle, like, I mean, it's like here right now. So we got to get all that out of the way. Then we're going to get into the interview. I'm talking to Madison Rayne. Madison, how are you doing today?
Well, I'm sweating now after that introduction.
Listen, you got a couple of reasons to sweat. Let's start with today so far. Let me get my glasses on so I can look at the time.
Oh,
okay.
God.
This interview was scheduled for an hour and 6 minutes ago, okay? Because, Madison, I'm a very busy man. I know. Things by schedule. Now, first of all, let me say this, and I knew I heard this somewhere before. I went on Wikipedia yesterday, pick up little tidbits about you, and I read this, and I remember hearing this, that, you know, when you spent some time in college, and your GPA in college was a 4.0. Now, I got to tell you, listen, I've had old-timers on this show. I mean, Madison, old-timers that were able to figure out Google Hangout and Skype quicker than you did. So we lost about an hour, but now that 4.0 comes a little bit into question.
Okay, so to start off, I never claimed that I was in school for anything to do with computers. Nothing communications related. I was in nursing school. And for the record, I'm back in nursing school with a 3.7 GPA. So all of these years of getting my butt kicked on national television haven't done too much damage. Apparently, I just still don't know how to use anything electronic, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, we might want to take a computer course at the college. You know,
yeah, you know, that's an elective, and it wasn't one that I was going to explore, but after this morning, maybe I should. However, I do want it to be noted, I'm never on time for anything except this interview. I was so ready. I woke up early. I even washed my hair. I put on makeup. This is like out of my element for this hour of the morning, and I was ready. It's not my fault.
Yeah, well, Madison, that was another thing like I wanted to ask you, because I had a laugh, because this happens to me all the time. Every time listen, Vixens Who Rule is a show dedicated just to women, and I celebrate women one day a week, you know. And the funny thing is, the last thing I always hit them with is, oh, by the way, it's on video, because I know every time we got to get into the makeup thing. Oh, my God, I got to get up makeup, this, that, and the other thing. Madison, I have to ask you, listen, I spent so much time with knockouts, and I spent a lot of time in the makeup room.
God bless you.
Yeah, God bless me is right. But, Madison, like, I have to ask you, like, is that just a creature of habit and I've got to put my makeup on and, you know, part of the routine? Or if it were up to you, would you just say, screw it, and, like, I'm never going to put makeup on again in my life?
I don't. I never, ever, ever do. And God bless any man who has ever tried to date me or the couple that have taken the plunge and married me, because this is not what you get on a daily basis. I hate all things makeup. Like, Angelina loves makeup, and she looks on point. She's a perfect 10 all the time because she loves hair and makeup and all things girly. I don't. I never have, and I never will. So this was a process for me. Please know I was completely dedicated to this interview this morning.
Well, yeah, okay, but you're still not off the hook yet. And listen, I advise you, because now comes the big heat. I advise you, there's only one way that you always got to my heart. So I advise you that maybe you try to soften me up a little.
Okay.
Give the people at home the wave. Nobody does that like you. Okay.
Elbow wrist. Elbow wrist.
Okay. Now here's the thing. Listen, I'm getting my keyboard out of my way because I need desk space to lay this out. Okay. Now, let me tell a little backstory. There were originally two beautiful people, in Angelina Love and Velvet Sky. There was a third beautiful person added, Madison Rayne, who I may add, I gave the name Madison Rayne to, by the way. That came from Vince Russo's head. But there was beautiful people. There was an established beautiful people, and then Madison Rayne came along. And listen, I will admit, Madison Rayne made the beautiful people bigger than they were before they started, which I didn't think was possible. So now I start this podcast, and, you know, Angelina has been on the podcast. Angelina has been on a second time with her husband. Velvet Sky is a friend of the show. You know, she has been on the podcast. I literally have been hunting you down for the last year, trying to get you on the show so I can complete the trifecta. At every turn, I've been getting blown off. I've been getting DMs going unanswered, using a child, I believe the name is Charlie, who turned 2 years old on August 29th. You know, using Charlie as an excuse, doing everything in your power to avoid coming on the Vince Russo podcast. Now, is there an issue I don't know about? Have I done something? Have you become such a star now that is there people that I need to go through? Tell me, Madison, what have I been doing wrong to get you on the show?
Vince, let me ask you a question. You have children, right?
I have 3 children, yes.
Okay. Do you remember when they were 2?
No, because my wife was taking care of them.
Okay, well, do you remember then at any point your wife going, I can't do anything? Like he's going up and down the steps and on the couch and drawing with a marker on the couch and the TV and lunchtime. And honest to God, there would never be a time where when I have my daughter, I'm able to sit down, collect my thoughts, and have human interaction. It's impossible. I've tried to call doctors. I've tried to call, my mom back home. I can't have a conversation longer than 10 minutes with a toddler running around. I swear I'm not using her as an excuse, but that's just my reality. That's also why I don't do my makeup. We roll out of bed, we watch Doc McStuffins, and that's life. And I don't know if that just got my Vixen card revoked for admitting that that's my day. but you are one of maybe the only people in my 10-year wrestling career who has ever believed in me. And I swear to God, there's no heat. There's no me trying to avoid this. It's so hard.
What is little Charlie, like the Energizer Rabbit? Madison?
Oh my God.
All over the place, Charlie?
She is, and I've had, she goes with me to church on Sundays, and I've taken her to church daycare, and, I don't have her in a daycare Monday through Friday right now because, I've been given the opportunity to work, a few days a month, so I keep her home with me, but I've taken her, to social hour and to this at the library and that at the zoo, and I've had, like, the people at church and different parents tell me, like, she's so active, and that's a great thing. That means she's so smart, but she's so active.
You're not putting coffee in a bottle or anything, are you?
Oh, God, no. I'm just drinking more coffee than what I've ever consumed, like, ever in my life, which is great. I love it. I'm not complaining.
Madison, let me ask you this, and it's going to be along these lines. Listen, Madison, you got to understand something. Like, when I come on these shows, like, I don't really talk about wrestling that much because, quite frankly, I hate wrestling these days.
Okay.
So I want to talk about the people I love.
Okay.
And so there's going to be, like, some personal stuff. But, I would never ask anything that I think you wouldn't want to answer, or I don't do that. But stuff that I'm really interested in.
Okay.
Okay, now, I'm interested. Again, this is Vixens That Rule. So, like, this is a show dedicated to women. Obviously, I've never been pregnant. I've never had a child. And, Madison, I have to tell you, this is the God-honest truth. Like, I've been through 3 childbirths. And, like, I always tell my wife, listen, I am a hypochondriac. I mean, every little thing that's wrong with me, I think is I'm dying. I've been that way my whole life. I've been through 3 childbirths. I've been there. I told my wife, thank God, like, I wasn't born a woman, because I would have never had any children. Madison, the anticipation of, in my mind, there's a child inside of me, and eventually this child is going to come out of me, would drive me like out of my freaking mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Madison, I want to ask you this, because I know, listen, I was consulting for TNA for a short period of time, and like I was able to check in on a couple of people and find out what everybody was doing. Nobody knew I was working there, which I hated, and it was ridiculous. But I got to find out where people were. Now, here's what I want to talk to you about. You went from Madison Rayne wrestler. I know you married a gentleman from a serviceman, right? I met him on one occasion. Very nice man. But you're Madison Rayne wrestler. Then you get married.
Yeah.
Then you have a baby.
Yeah.
So first of all, you get married first, and there's a huge adjustment that you have to make in your life, because it's not. Listen, wrestlers are free spirits on the road, out of the suitcase, in the hotel, on a flight. All of a sudden now, when there's a spouse involved, that's a life change. Okay? Now, next, there's a child involved. A life change for a mom of a whole different color.
Yes.
Now, Madison, I find out, and I was very sorry to hear this. I think I was consulting when this happened, and I wished I could have reached out to you then, but I couldn't. But now, all of a sudden, Madison becomes a single mom, which is like, I mean, the levels of spouse, mother, single mom, now you're remarried again, which I had no idea till yesterday. I don't know where I've been. But Madison,
it's not you. I've just been very secretive.
Yeah, okay, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But Madison, I know with the life of a wrestler, marriage, child, separation, single mom, those are huge. How were you able to do that and still maintain some kind of a career?
Okay, well, that's a lot.
And you can open up to me. Listen, Madison, I got to tell you a couple things. I've been referred to as the Oprah of podcasting, number one. Listen, grown people have cried on this show. Little Egypt, a former Glow wrestler, cried on this show. So, this is we're open. We're friends. But I'm really concerned, because I'm blown away by that. I don't know how you do that. As a man and the head of my family, that was difficult for me. But you went through 3 huge phases in a very short period of time.
I did. And I have never and will never be the one to throw anyone or any specific situation that has happened to me under the bus. I will say that, I don't regret anything that I've done, be it a first marriage. Having my daughter is the best thing that has ever happened to me. I don't regret this new marriage. Because to me, I'm in a really, really good place now at almost 30. And yes, I have a very long Wikipedia biography now because of all the things that have happened. My first marriage, on paper, it seemed perfect. We grew up together in the same town. Our moms knew each other. My oldest brother was the best man in his oldest brother's wedding. Like, it was just like something that they make Lifetime movies about. However, the reality of it was, we got married when I was at probably the peak of my career. I was traveling a lot. He was in the military, and, everything that comes along with military life happened to us almost immediately after we got married. We got married in February. He deployed in May. He came home in June and deployed again he was sent for training in July and then went to Afghanistan in September. So, while on paper everything looked perfect, we didn't really know each other. And, we were two, young and excited and in love to even step back and go, we don't know each other. Like we're basically having an online relationship because our careers are pulling us in two different places. So then when he came home from deployment, you know, I think that's like a thing that's kind of laughed about within the military community. People come home from deployments and watch out because that's what the baby boomer generation is all about. You know, we spent that year like regrouping and getting to know each other again, and things were really good. And that's when I was doing all the fitness competitions. We were doing those together. And then we decided it's time. We want a family. We're by no means old, but we want to be younger parents. And you know what? I did my last fitness competition in November of 2012 and found out I was pregnant in December of 2012. So it was basically the second that we decided that's what we wanted to do, it happened for us. And during that 9-month pregnancy, he had to go away for training for 2 months, and then we had to move from South Carolina to Florida, and just all of these things that, you know, we were still essentially newlyweds, shouldn't have been dealt. And, you know, we didn't make it. We didn't make it. You know, depending on who you ask is, you know, they'll tell you it was this person's fault or that person's fault. The bottom line is we didn't make it. But out of that came the most amazing experience of my life and the most amazing little human being that I've ever seen, that I've ever laid eyes on in my daughter. So for me, even though, you know, the breakup was not good, it wasn't happy, it didn't, and, you know, divorce is never happy to me. Like it's just not happy, or it wouldn't be divorce. It wasn't good. But in all of that, I have grown more than I knew I could. I've found strength that I didn't know was in me. And, you know, I won't say that I've ever been a single mom because, you know, dad has always been there, but I've done my part all on my own. And, you know, that has given me a tremendous amount of respect for all moms, but especially all the single moms out there. It's a job, and it can be hard sometimes. But, you know, I'm a bit of a holy roller, so I just look at things like, I'm meant to be here. This was meant to happen. This strengthened me. This made me grow. Yep. In all of this, I met my new husband, which also seems like rushed and quick, and that's why I didn't really say anything, and that's why you read it on the internet.
Was there a formal ceremony?
There was a formal ceremony, informally done in a flower garden in downtown Nashville.
Well, I wouldn't know because my invitation was probably lost in the mail.
Nobody got an invitation. Our parents watched online, actually.
Madison, that's okay for nobody. I'm Vince Russo. Created your name that you now go by Madison name.
Created my career.
I want to get back. No, I did not. I want to get back to this story, and I hope you don't mind, but I'm interested in you as a person.
Yeah.
Madison, listen, I'm older and wiser. And listen, I'm glad you said, because I was really shocked when I looked at your Wikipedia, and with everything accomplished, you're still in your 20s. And I'm glad you brought that up.
Barely.
But I know women don't like to talk about their age. And like, I wanted to say, like, Madison, you're not even 30 yet, and you've accomplished so much. So like, Madison, I'm 54. I'm a little older. I'm a little wiser. But here's the question I want to ask you. Listen, I've been around so many people. And a lot of times, you know, I'm not one of the boys. I was never one of the boys. You know, I was just a writer. So I could have been writing in any field. So a lot of times I looked at the business from the outside looking in. Okay. And the one thing that just like always would blow me away was how, you know, such a great percentage of wrestlers make the business their entire lives. Yep. There's nothing else but the business, eat, drink, and sleep. I know a lot of people at TNA like that, trust me. And like, you know, the thing that always concerned me was, you know, there's going to be a time in a day when you can't do this anymore. And the earlier you can prepare yourself for that, the better you're going to be. If all of a sudden you turn around one day, you're 42 years old, you can't compete in the ring anymore, and it's like, what do I do? That's hard, and that's difficult. I know you're smarter than that, so that's not my question. But what my question is to you is, you know, Madison Rayne, wrestler, you know, I mean, you went through the ranks, you made all the stops, finally you come to TNA, you make it in TNA.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, pregnant.
Yeah.
Child on the way. For a woman, Madison, somebody's calling you again, I think, but that's okay. Can you hear me? You're back. Okay, yeah.
And I can see you now.
Okay, yeah, I think that happens when somebody calls you, but that's okay. We'll fix all that. Madison, like, as a woman, like, give me the mindset, as you're a wrestler. That's what you're doing now. Now give me the mindset of becoming pregnant and knowing a child is on the way, and then the child comes. What does that do to your mindset as far as wrestling in the career goes?
Do you mean, like, did I think I would ever come back to wrestling?
No, like, I guess priority-wise. I guess, does the game plan, like, instantly change for the life of Madison Rayne like this?
Yeah. You know, I have read, and I, you know, sometimes I say certain things like in interviews and on Twitter, and then I go back and like, that's not going to be taken the way I mean it. So I don't mean any discredit to dads, but I feel like the second a woman becomes pregnant, it's like we're just innately engineered to like switch gears. And we know that something is happening inside of us, and there's a human being developing. And so, yeah, almost immediately I feel like our priorities change, and we're eating differently, and we're taking better care of ourselves, and we're drinking more water, and we're taking our vitamins, and, you know, we're a lot more concerned about another person now. Whereas men, like, you guys know what's going on. You understand the process, but there are things that we feel that you guys don't experience until 9 months later. So my priorities started changing in December of 2012. However, with that said, wrestling has afforded me a wonderful life. I spent my 20s traveling to places that I didn't even know I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And so I knew that that was my career for now. Like, and in that moment, that was my career. And, you know, TNA kept me on payroll throughout my pregnancy. And I'm so fortunate to have had a company and a group of people who cared enough about me to do that and to promise me that if and when you're ready, your spot is being held. So, you know, I did other things. I dove into the, multi-level marketing stuff. I did some of that. I looked into going back to school while I was pregnant. I got my personal training certification. So I opened up different avenues for myself. But in those months when I was still married, the plan was, you know, because TNA's schedule is not brutal by any means. Like, it allows people to be wrestlers and do what they want to do, but then go home and be family people also, family men and women. And so in those months, that was the plan. I was going to get myself healthy and go back to work, like, when I was able to. And, you know, we both kept in the back of our minds, I may have this child and never want to leave and never want to get back into a wrestling ring. But she definitely became my top priority. But working and providing for my family was always right up there with it. And wrestling is how I did that and how I still do that. So it by no means did it fall to the wayside for me as far as priorities go.
You know, I was thinking about this, and again, I keep going back to, you know, the name of the show is Vixens That Rule, and this is why I love the show, because, like, I'm not a woman, and like, I love to talk about the mindset of women and how women think. And, like, here's a perfect example.
It's complicated.
Yeah, here's a perfect example, and this sounds like the stupidest question in the world, but I'm looking at this from a guy's perspective. Mm-hmm. So, like, I want to hear a woman's perspective. I'll be honest with you, Madison, I really don't. I don't watch much wrestling these days. I have to watch some because of what I do, so I have to be on top of it. So, like, I knew a Beautiful People reunion was coming because I had spoken to Velvet. I didn't know it was last night, but on my computer, you know, I get bombarded with all these emails, so I know that it happened last night.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing, man. I got to ask you this question. I've had a lot of guys on this show, And like a lot of guys have been part of a tag team. And, you know, like my question to the guys always is, man, I always thought it was tough to be a tag team wrestler because you're tied into a partner, and kind of if your partner screws up, that's going to affect your job.
Yeah.
No, listen, from a writer's point of view, I know that. That's going, so you're really depending on another human being for your career. You know, so now I'm sitting back and I'm watching the beautiful people get reunited. And now, like, it's a whole other different set of circumstances for a woman, because now, from what I understand, Angelina is pregnant.
Yes.
So now it's like, listen, man, it's the nature of the business. Angelina is pregnant. That's great. I'm sure she's ecstatic. I guarantee you, if you would have asked her a year ago, she would have never in a million years thought she'd be married and pregnant today. And I'm sure she's ecstatic and is going through what you went through. Yeah. But at the end of the day now, the beautiful people are together. Angelina is pregnant. That can affect the careers of both you and Velvet. How do you deal with that? Now, it's a whole different set of wax, because you had Charlie, and you know that changed your life for the best, and nothing is more important than that. So I don't think you're going to be looking at Angelina like, oh, shoot, you had to get pregnant now. I don't think you had to do that. But the fact of the matter is, this is something you have to deal with that guys don't have to deal with.
Yeah, it is. I mean, and, you know, guys can deal with it in the sense that, you know, if their tag partner gets seriously injured, they could be out for 9 months. But I agree with you in the sense that we are now connected to these other people when you're in a faction, and if one does something, it can affect, it's like domino effect. But I also feel like with the three of us, we're so established. And I would like to think and hope that there's enough trust instilled in the other two members of the beautiful people that, you know, there was a situation 6 years ago where Angelina had to go home for a little while, and, you know, Velvet and I carried on as the beautiful people. I think it's the chemistry of any of the three of us can elevate us to the level that, you know, we've always been. And, you know, I would like to hope and think that there's enough history with Velvet and I, and ways that Angelina can still be involved without being involved, that I haven't even for 1 second thought, oh no, now what are we going to do? Because she's gone and she's pregnant, and now the beautiful people can't exist. Well, it can.
Yeah.
And I just hope that, you know, I've been with TNA for 6 or 7 years now. Whatever ball they throw me, I'm going to run with it. So whatever that may be.
Madison, let me ask you this. Listen, again, everything I look at is from a guy's perspective. That's why I love talking to women. Listen, from a guy's perspective, when you have a successful act.
Yeah.
As I was just having a conversation with Chuck Palumbo the other day, because I kind of went through this with a lot of guys at WCW. When you're the new act and you come on the scene and especially become a part of the established act, I know guys, you know, they don't welcome you with open arms. It doesn't work that way in wrestling. And I hate this. I think it's childish. I think it's pathetic. You got to prove yourself. You got to pay your dues. You got to do all that crap, which I think is so high schoolish and childish. I always hated that. Okay, Now, and please be honest with me when you answer this question, and I think you will be. Angelina and Velvet were established. Okay, you know, you got added on as the third wheel. Okay. Was there ever an issue at the beginning? Was it similar to like what guys go through with you got to earn your spot? There it is, earn your spot and all that. Or I mean, did the three of you get together, get along immediately?
Well, I knew Angelina from the independent scene. We had met a couple of times. We got along really well. I didn't know. I knew who Velvet was, obviously. Like, I did my homework from the second I stepped into a wrestling ring. So I knew all of these girls. I knew every girl that debuted when the Knockouts division was created. Like, I knew everybody. And, I wouldn't consider Angelina and I to have been friends at the time. We just knew each other and had a good working relationship. And when I came in, they were both I remember I was sitting in the makeup chair and Angelina came in, and this is just her personality. It wasn't like a negative hello at all, but she came in, she goes, "What are you doing here?" And, here I was, this 22-year-old, like, shy, quiet little mouse in the corner of the Knockouts locker room, and Velvet came over to me right away and introduced herself, and they were both very, very nice and very welcoming. And at the time, that locker room was just full of girls who were so excited and so happy to have this division and have it taking off the way that it was, that I didn't get any cattiness or negativity from anybody. And if it was happening, it was behind my back, and I was too naive and just oblivious to it, because I was so excited to be there and be in that moment. And I've always said that with certain things, ignorance is bliss for me. And so, if there was any animosity or cattiness, or like, we formed this group and here in comes this girl who just is plucked off the indies and thrown into the hottest, group on television, I didn't get any of it, or I don't remember feeling it ever.
Madison, I have to ask you this because I swear to you, I always use you as an example. And I've told this story many, many times. It has nothing to do with you being on here. I would have told you this story a long time ago if you didn't keep blowing me off to come on here. But I tell people this all the time, Madison. This is the God honest truth. I so much hate in wrestling, with guys, wanting a push, wanting to put, where's my push? There's no such thing as a push in wrestling. There's no, with me, everything was organic. And, you put somebody out there, and, basically at that point, it's up to them, because if they're getting over and it's working, that means money for the company. So, of course, you go with that person now. You give them a bigger role. It's all organic. There's no plan. Listen, Madison, especially in your case, there were never big plans for Madison Rayne. And I go back and I think of the early vignettes, and the early vignettes were you literally laying at the feet of Velvet and Angelina.
I was literally stealing money. Thank you for that.
Yeah. So, like, there were no plans. There were no big plans for Madison Rayne. It was, let's kind of add a girl in there that they could boss around to really get them over as being bitches. That was the whole idea about it. Yeah. I swear, and I use this as an example all the time, Madison. Nothing was, there was no 6-month plan for Madison. There was nothing. And then all of a sudden, I'm sitting back, and I am just watching you develop on your own. And are you this popular that people are calling you every 2 minutes? Or is that your husband calling you?
It's everybody.
Okay.
Everybody.
That's okay. That's all right. That's part of the deal when we do this on the internet. I'm just kidding. But I saw organically grow, and like remember saying to myself, "Oh my God, she is so freaking good." All the way to the Queen Bee. Like, you did all that on your own. And I always use that as an example by people that are looking, for their push. So now, like, again, when I'm doing the research this morning, there's a couple of things I want to talk about, but this is something specifically. I see now, I didn't know then, I see now that you, part of, I guess, high school was drama for you.
Yeah.
Was this a part of your plan for the future? I mean, getting in some kind of acting stage, doing something?
Not really, or if so, it was kind of a subconscious thing. My senior year of high school, I needed an art class, and my options were like drawing, art class, or drama. And I remember my freshman year of high school, I I took an art class, and it was with the same art teacher that my oldest brother had. And he's just so gifted and so talented at drawing. And I remember the art teacher saying to me, well, you just weren't nearly as gifted as your brother was. Now were you? So to me, anything like drawing or painting was out. And I also, from a young age, I did pageants. And when I say pageants, I don't mean like toddlers and tiaras where they're like the moms are pinning the girls in the corner and putting eyelashes on them. I mean, just like local festivals. And, I did one state pageant. And so I was used to being in front of people. I was in dance class when I was younger. So I've always kind of been on a stage or in some kind of limelight. And I liked it there. I didn't crave it. I didn't need it, but I really liked it. I was a cheerleader all through high school, so I always had like the crowds watching me, and I was always comfortable. And it said something to me because my mom would always say, statistically, one of the biggest things that people are afraid of, second only to death, is public speaking. Mm-hmm. And I've never felt that. So it was always kind of ingrained in me, like, this is good. This is like a talent that you have. Mm-hmm. And so I took drama my senior year, and here I was, like, varsity cheerleader, track team captain in drama club. And, all my friends were like, what the hell are you doing? And but it was like every production that we had to do it in front of the student body first, and then, we would do it to the public. And I would always just get praised by teachers and other students and, people in the community. And so that kind of clicked for me then, like, hey, you belong somewhere where people are at least listening to you. And, growing up, I went through phases where, like, I want to be a wrestler. No, I want to be Miss America. No, I want to be a doctor. But I always kind of had it in the back of my head, like, I would love to be a professional wrestler one day.
Why was that? Where did that come from?
I have 2 older brothers. I don't have any sisters. So it was me, my older brothers, and my dad. And we would always just watch wrestling. I mean, I come from the stereotypical, like, Midwest, middle-class family who in the 90s, like, everybody watched wrestling. Yeah. And I grew up watching it with them. And at first it was like hey, sit down and watch this if you want to, like, fit in and hang out with us type thing. But then the more I watched it, and the more I watched people like Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart and those kind of people that could just captivate an audience and could just hold your attention every single time you saw them. I wanted to be that. And then there were more women wrestling, and obviously I gravitated towards that. And it was just always something that captivated me, and that in my perfect fantasy world, I would one day be a part of.
You know what's interesting to me, and you kind of said it here, and I was going to talk to you a little bit about this. You kind of said, I want to be a wrestler, I want to be a doctor. I mean, like, you were kind of all over the place. Listen, I know, like, 95% of the women wrestlers I interview on this show, I mean, I know immediately. I don't even have to read the background. I know immediately they were tomboys. Listen, people don't understand. You have to work with the knockouts to really understand. As they shoot, these girls are tough. Mm-hmm. I know that because I was around you girls. When push comes to shove, these are tough girls. I mean, girls like Tara,
yes.
Velvet. These are tough girls. So, like, I always know, listen, if they're tough now, they were tough when they were younger. There's some tomboy involved. So then, of course, I read, you got the 2 older brothers. So I'm like, yeah, okay, obviously she was a tomboy. But then in the next sentence, homecoming queen, head cheerleader. Those things don't usually go hand in hand. So it just seems like in your early, high school years, like, were you just doing a little bit of everything to figure out what it is that you really wanted to do?
I guess I didn't even realize I was just laying the foundation for my wrestling career. I did 1 year of the powerlifting team when I was a freshman. I was 108 pounds. I was on the powerlifting team. And I think it all goes back to having 2 older brothers. My oldest brother got me in the gym when I was 14, and I've been working out religiously ever since then. My other brother was, I think still to this day, he's 36, 37. He still holds track. Like, he was just so good. And, you know, he would take me over to the track and teach me how to come out of the blocks and how to get better at that. And they were both baseball fans. They taught me how to play softball and, you know, just all of these things. But then, oddly enough, and it's still the case today, some of my closest girlfriends are the girliest people who just love shopping and fashion and the housewives of whatever. And I'm not really into that either. So I'm either the best of both worlds or I'm just lost on my own planet. I don't know which it is.
That's interesting to me because now you got Charlie, right? Charlie just turned 2.
Yes.
On August 29th. You know, the same. That's my mother's birthday. That's how I remembered, August 29th.
Oh,
and
cool.
it's just going to be so interesting because, like, you're so many things. And to see what she's going, I mean, it seems like she's going to have so many options. She's going to look at mom. She's going to learn all these things about mom. She's going to have all these options. It's interesting to see what path that she goes down.
Yeah, I already, and maybe it's partially because, like, I'm doing this for her, but, like, I put her in dresses and then she wants to go outside and play in the dirt. Or I will put her in little yoga pants or warm-up pants for the day and she wants to play with her princess set. Like, she's already kind of picking up on the same habits that I've had my whole life. And I mean, I'll give credit where it's due. Her dad has done modeling and he did the fitness competitions too and was in the military. And, like, you know, if she pulls from both of us, she's just going to be the coolest person. She's going to be the coolest little kid.
Yeah. Hey, Madison, you said to me when we were trying to hook this thing up, like, you're half in Ohio, you're half in Nashville. Like, what's going on with you right now? None of my business?
I mean, I'm in Ohio. I live in Ohio. My husband lives in Nashville. Okay. It's strange. There's a lot of, like, personal things happening right now in my life, but I visit Nashville on a very, very, very frequent, regular basis. Got you.
Okay. Listen, I got to ask you this question. It just popped into my head. You please tell me you never considered, because he got a lot of heat from me. You never considered going to that wedding with Brian Wittenstein as his guest, did you?
What wedding?
Didn't Brian Wittenstein ask you to go to a wedding with him or something at one point in time? He did. You're just forgetting it because I found out about it and I hammered him and I still hammer him about it to this day.
You know what?
Do you still keep in touch with Brian Wittenstein?
I haven't heard from Brian in quite a while. I've changed my number a couple times though.
Because of Brian?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that explains everything. I don't blame you. Thank you. Thanks for admitting that on the show.
No. Brian, he's sweet.
I got to tell you this. I'm going to tell you this though. I can't believe we're talking about Brian Wittenstein on your watch. I got to tell you this though, man. I went to Lucha Underground. About 6 months ago. I love that product. And the reason why I love Lucha Underground is because, to me, it's more of a television show than a wrestling show.
Right.
And they run it that way, too. Listen, I've been in WWE locker rooms, TNA. This gets run like a television show, so I really, really dug it. But Brian now is like, he works for, he's like an assistant for a bunch of agents, big-time Hollywood agents. And I got to tell you, man, he's in like the perfect spot for his personality. And I hadn't seen him in so long. And I went down there and I spent like a day or two with him. And it was like just the same freaking Brian. But like in the middle of the Hollywood scene. He was right smack in the middle of his element. But I'll never forget, I found out he asked you to a wedding or something. And I hammered him.
That's funny. I don't remember it. I'm not saying it didn't happen because he did ask me several times to like go hang out and go do this and that. And I always looked at Brian as a friend.
As a stalker.
No, actually, oddly enough, in, what was it, 2008, when I was kind of starting to think that maybe I was going to send out resumes and video packages to try to get a job wrestling on TV. I wasn't quite there yet. In my mind, I wasn't quite good enough yet, but I was getting there. Brian found me on MySpace because TNA was looking at somebody else, a guy that I wrestled with frequently in the Cincinnati, Dayton area. And I guess, I don't really remember MySpace, but you have like your top 10 friends or whatever that are on your page. And I was on this kid's page, this guy's page, and Brian found me from that. And he sent me a message and was like, hey, I'm Brian Wittenstein with TNA Wrestling. I'm like, yeah, right. So I called Tracy Brooks because Tracy and I have been very close for a lot of years. And she's like, oh, yeah, Brian works there, and go ahead and talk to him. And so I'm, for so many reasons, blessed, but I feel like my opportunities in wrestling have just fallen into my lap. Not that I haven't worked for them, but it's just happened. That's why I still say, like, everything that happens to me happens because it puts me in the exact place I'm meant to be.
Absolutely. And
so for all the heat that Brian got for, asking me to go see the new Twilight movie or asking,
were you close to getting a restraining order against the guy? Like, he can't come within 10 miles of you?
I actually did. As friends, it was not a date. I did go see the Twilight movie with Brian.
You went on a date with Brian Wittenstein.
I went to see a movie with Brian because we were in our 20s and we liked Twilight, and we were...
Did he try to make the move?
He didn't. No.
Come on, the arm around the chair.
No,
I mean,
never.
Come on now.
No, I promise he didn't.
Was he creepy? Was it creepy? Kind of a little creepy.
Well, he was very into Twilight, so I don't know. Is that creepy?
That's a guy very into Twilight. See, I'm talking as a guy now. That's hysterical to me. A guy very into Twilight. Let's change gears. We talked about Brian enough. We learned that he stalked you and he tried to hit on you and all that.
No.
Okay. Madison, I got to ask you this because you said something early on in this interview that does not surprise me.
Uh-oh.
And I'm very glad to hear. Okay? And listen, we're just shooting straight now. Listen, I'm going to tell you up front, Madison, there are a lot of people, friends, I consider dear friends, do my show all the time in TNA that I absolutely love. Okay? No question about that. I am not in love with TNA management. I felt they handled me poorly and disrespected me. But at the end of the day, all I care about is I don't want a bunch of friends I have to be out of work. Listen, I know what it is to be in the wrestling business and be out of work, and it's very, very difficult. I've got a wrestling resume that reached professional wrestling sports entertainment for 25 years. At 54, there's not too much that I can do with this.
Yeah.
So obviously, this isn't breaking news, but the future of TNA is kind of up in the air, okay? I love the fact that you told me that, you're going back to school for nursing. Very smart, listen, if TNA continues on, great, I can continue to do that, but there's a plan B just in case. Very, very smart. As a matter of fact, I was talking to Angelina's husband, the other day. He does a lot of other things, great. I love that way of thinking. But Madison, there's that whole other side of the guys that I talk to. That like every single egg is in the wrestling basket, and I feel for them because, like I said, I'm in a spot now that they may very well be in. Thank God, like I have the gift of gab and I can do this and I can entertain. But a lot of these guys are wrestlers. Like that's what they do, in-ring physical wrestlers. And granted, listen, it's not going to be that easy to go out and work indies on this, when everybody's going to be looking for a job now. So it's going to be very competitive. It's not going to be easy. What do you think? What do you think is the mindset, and what do you think separates somebody like you that, okay, it is what it is. I love it. I hope I'm doing it for the next 10 years, but just in case Madison needs to educate herself and be fully prepared for something else, compared to the guy that, oh my God, what's going to happen to TNA? What's going to happen to TNA? What am I going to do if there's no longer a TNA? What's the difference between that guy and you?
I think not a lot, because I still have those moments where I think, God forbid something happens to TNA, between the time that happens and I get my nursing degree, what can I take this resume and go do, like, in the meantime? But for me, it's always like, my parents have kept me very, very grounded my whole life, and especially my entire career. And while they have been my biggest supporters, my biggest fans, and they still to this day, like, they bought the whatever cable package that they had to upgrade to have Destination America so they can continue to watch TNA every week. They've always said to me, it's not going to last forever. Mm-hmm. And especially, my dad, who's been a wrestling fan for as long as I can remember, is smart enough to know women typically have shorter careers than men do. Absolutely. And yep. You have to think about the future. And I've always been somebody who's wanted a family, wanted children. So, while I'm going to rest, I'm going to do everything that I'm doing now for as long as humanly possible. I just am, because I can do it, because I don't feel like in any area, but be it school or being a mother or being a professional wrestler, I don't feel like I'm slacking anywhere. So for as long as I can continue doing that and feeling that way, I'm going to do it. And I think that for the people who don't have a plan B, it's they're just being a bit naive and hoping that they're that one exception to the rule, that they're that, John Cena, or they're that, whoever it is that can do this for long enough and build a bank account big enough that can sustain them throughout life.
I think a lot of those people too, though, Madison, I think this is a part of it too. I think a lot of them are in denial. You know what I'm saying? I mean, I think a lot of, they want to believe it's going to go on forever. I understand that, but I think they get to the point of convincing themselves, and I think they kind of at some point lose touch of reality and really, really what the situation is. And like you said, especially women, because there is a much shorter shelf life. There's no doubt about this. But Madison, I have to ask you this, man. And listen, how long have you been back in nursing school now?
A year now is but here's what's happening. I'm only taking 1 or 2 classes a semester. I'm doing what I can, and I'm not overloading.
What's the nursing appeal?
Well, anything healthcare related, I feel like there's job security forever. People are always going to get sick. People are always going to need to go to the doctor. My mom has been a nurse for 20 years. She loves it. And in my perfect world, I'm thinking I want to be, when I grow up, a labor and delivery nurse. And I say that because, when I went through the process, those nurses that were in that room with me for the way too many hours, they made that experience for me way better than what it could have been. Yeah.
Madison, though, I'm going to try to bring you down a different career path.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
And listen, everybody's life changes when they get married and have kids, and you start thinking about job security in the future and stuff like that a little bit more, because what happens is now all of a sudden, in your case, there's 2 other people involved. It's not just all about me. So I can't be selfish. I got to start thinking about my daughter and my husband, all things. And I totally get that. Okay. But Madison, here's what I don't get. You have some drama background, okay? Madison, 90% of the wrestlers, are wrestlers that have to learn to act. They are not actors. And right. I mean, listen, there's a lot of guys to this day that just cut awful promos, and they've been doing it for a long, because they're not actors. They're not actors. They're wrestlers.
Yeah.
When it comes to acting, you are literally at the top of that food chain. You always were. You always got it. You always understood it. When you talk about God and I'm where I'm supposed to be and Charlie's here, and I agree with you 1,000%, but I also believe God gives us gifts. Yeah. And these gifts we're supposed to utilize. Why? We don't know. When we die and we meet him, he'll tell us. But you have a gift. You have a natural gift and a natural ability to act and entertain people. Why are we ruling out, getting an agent, getting representation and maybe taking an acting career to the next level. I know an agent in Hollywood by the name of Brian Wittenstein. If you go see a movie with him, he may put you in a movie. Madison, why are we ruling that out? That's your natural talent.
I guess maybe it's not ever. I don't rule anything out ever, but I think maybe a combination of things. Like maybe I'm grounded to a fault where I feel like professional wrestling has been a gigantic opportunity and a huge blessing for me. But to think that something else like an acting career is going to happen for me, I've just never like invested a lot of thought into it. I would never turn down the opportunity. But at the same time, I also, and you know, I've done it a couple times at TNA. They've offered, hey, do you want to go here? Do you want to do this? Do you want to go on this tour? No, because that'll take time away from my daughter. And I'm so proud of everything that I've done. I'm proud of doing national fitness competitions. I'm proud of being a 5-time knockouts champion. I'm proud of all of that. But being a mom has just changed everything. And like, that's what I'm the most proud of, because when you get real deep inside your head and you think like, I made this human being and now I'm teaching this human being how to speak, how to walk, how to wake up every morning and go about her routine. To me, that's just amazing. And, you know, if something fell in my lap to where I could act and make a great living and provide just astronomical amounts of opportunities for my family, I would absolutely do it. But I know, as is the same with wrestling, like to start out, you have to make a lot of sacrifices. And I'm not willing to gamble that way when I know that I've got a family to provide for. Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, again, priorities. You know, it all comes down to priorities. Listen, I have to whisper because she's in the house. Madison, I have two boys, 28 and 25. They're out of the house. I got a 20-year-old daughter in the house. She is like the diva to the extreme. I mean, you have no idea. How do we prevent Charlie from becoming a diva? Like, are you taking the necessary precautions? Because I'm telling you, Madison, it's absolute hell.
Again, I go back to, and I don't know how vixenish this is, but I'm a holy roller, and Charlie goes to church every Sunday, and even though she's 2 and you know she's starting to understand things, I say things to Charlie like, you're beautiful, Charlie, but you're beautiful on the inside where it counts. Like, you're beautiful on the outside, but you're also beautiful on the inside where it counts. Like, she's a beautiful little girl, and I get told that everywhere I go. She should be in modeling. She's beautiful. She's a perfect, and I'm not opposed to any of that, because I feel like doing things like modeling and pageants, and, you know, if they're guided properly, can give kids a good sense of like self-awareness and self-confidence, and it helps them like with, you know, like meeting other people and not being shy and you know, an introvert. But I don't want her to be I'm pretty, I'm really pretty. Like my mom and dad, they tell me I'm pretty. I don't want her to be that. So I'm just planting little seeds now of like, yes, you're beautiful, but you're also pretty on the inside where it counts.
Madison, how do, listen, I work with a lot of knockouts. I worked with a lot of, women I really, truly love, like literally felt fatherly towards, you know what I mean? But then again, I worked with my share of divas. You know, there's no question about that. Freaking Sunny was a freaking diva. that is an absolute shoot. What, like, again, this is Vixens Who Rule. Like, what makes somebody like a Madison Rayne, a loving person, a great heart, who, you know, I wish was my daughter, to like total diva bitch? Like, how does that happen?
I don't know, because I would like to think that I'm not on the other side of that.
But you see it. I'm sure you see a lot of it.
I see it. I guess maybe for some people it's just very easy to buy into their own hype. I see it with a lot of guys too.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And, you know, maybe part of it's insecurity. Maybe you know, the fact that they're getting this little bit of attention now, like they want to hold on to it and they want to blow it up. And in their heads now, they're the second coming of Jesus, and everybody should worship them. But that's so far removed from my character and who I am that I see it.
Yeah.
But I don't get mad about it. I feel sorry for those people.
Yeah.
Like, are you not secure enough in who you are and you know, what values you have?
Yeah, and that's a lot of too. Like I think a lot of with the guys, you know, like not having that plan B. A lot of it is ego, man. Listen, a lot, that's just a lot. I saw so much ego in professional wrestling that like if I try to have a conversation with a regular person, I can't even explain to them the level of ego that they would understand because I've never seen ego in the outside world the way I saw it in wrestling, because in wrestling I would see it to levels that I was like, I cannot even believe, you know. I want to ask you the last question. Now listen, because we've been on for about an hour and I'm very thankful, so I'm going to wrap it up. But now listen, I had no idea you got married in August. I have no idea you married Josh Matthews. I had no idea the two of you had any kind of a relationship. Like how quickly did this happen?
You know, it started at the beginning of the year.
And does Josh know that you had the thing with Brian?
Oh my God.
Is he going to find that out through this interview? Because that may change things. Madison, that may change things.
No, there was never a thing with Brian.
All right. Okay, I just want to clarify that.
He knows, like, you know, I think one of the things that I have adopted in my personality now is just brutal honesty. And I've learned that through, I think, the last 2 years of ups and downs and personal things that I've gone through. It's just lying to me is just, it's disgusting. It's ugly. It's deceitful. So I'm honest to a fault with people about things.
I'm the same way.
And it's gotten me in trouble.
Me too, Madison. I get myself in so much trouble telling the truth. I have my whole life, but you know what? I would never change that.
No, you don't have to go back and think like, well, what was the story that I told them? And is it going to be... You don't have to do that, because that to me is worse than like the brunt of what you're going to get when you are honest about things. Yeah. So I've just been honest almost to a fault with Josh from day one. And he says he's from New York, and that's where he spent the majority of his adulthood. So I'll give him that. He's from New York. And, you know, New Yorkers are their own breed. Like, they're honest and they're outspoken and they're all those things. And he's told me before, I don't think I've ever met a woman who just speaks her mind the way you do. Like, well, you're either going to love or hate me for that.
Right.
So very early on, it started because I'm from the Columbus, Ohio area.
Right.
I'm by default an Ohio State fan. He is a huge Oregon Ducks fan. National championship in January was Ohio State and Oregon, and we ended up winning. Like, nobody thought that was going to happen. We ended up winning. So I blew Twitter up daily, sending him pictures of like Urban Meyer and just everything that I could think of. And at this point, I knew him, but I didn't really know him.
Yeah.
And I was just like, here, does this make you mad? Can we still be friends? Are you still going to put me on an interview on .com? Like, and it just... sparks flew from that moment on. Like we just were able to, we were on a level playing field as far as sarcasm and sense of humor. And I need that because I'm honest, I'm sarcastic. I think things are funny that some people maybe don't. And he's there, like he's there with me. And I've always said, I have one best friend from home who is like, I would take a bullet for her on any given day. And I've always told her, out there in the world exists the male version of you. And when I find him, I'm going to marry him. And that is who Josh is.
Oh, wow. That's great. That is great to hear.
Yeah. And it's just, you know, we've been together since the beginning of the year. And in some people's minds, that's way too fast. But I know what I know.
Oh, yeah, you can't. Everybody's different. You can't look at, oh, that's too fast. That's too fast for who? Maybe too fast for you. It doesn't mean it's too fast for me. You got to look at everybody different. I got to ask you this, Madison, because the longer, like, in the outside world, the more and more, like, I look at wrestling and, like, just things in wrestling, and I shake my head. Okay?
Yeah.
Here's a perfect example. I got to ask you this question. listen, the guy that I talk to the most these days, that really just really turned out to really be there, and he's there to this day, no matter what, is Bubba, And, of course, I love Velvet. Yeah. So, the minute I heard Bubba and Velvet were together, I learned when I was, working secretively, I was like, oh, my God, So I talked to Bubba and Velvet quite a bit, right? So the thing that cracks me up is, like, they call each other Bubba and Velvet. Yeah. And I'm like, and here's why, it really resonates with me. Because, I gave Velvet her name, too. Yeah, and I remember. Bubba's calling, she's not Velvet. But here's the surreal thing. This is when I realized, something's wrong here. Hulk was on Good Morning America this week with that very, very serious story about the remarks he made, this, that, and the other thing. They're referring to him as Hulk Hogan. They're on Good Morning America. They're calling him a character's name that does not exist. Yep. That's Terry Bollea, and like you, I'm a Christian man, a man that made a mistake, a man we need to forgive, and it's not up to me to judge Terry Bollea. But I'm watching, and Hulk Hogan. I'm like, there is no Hulk Hogan. Right. Does Josh call you Madison?
Oh, God, no.
Oh, thank God, because everybody does. It drives me crazy.
No. And don't get me wrong, Vince, I love my name. I love my character. But in my mind, to people who I have in my phone who I would text on a regular basis, they have no business calling me Madison.
That's refreshing to me.
However, I will say that Angelina calls me Madison. She always has. She probably always will. And I always call her Angel. Yeah. That's the one exception for me. I don't call really anybody else by their character name, but her and we're close enough to almost be sisters, and we still just refer to each other as Madison and Angel. And for us, for that situation, it's fine. But the majority of people, if they call me Madison outside of work, I'm like, no. And the really the bad part about it is that, and again, Vince, thank you for the name. I love it. My real name is Ashley. My character name is Madison. So when you put those two together, it's not a good outcome for me, especially right now.
I'm going to ask you one last question. I keep saying, I promise this is the last question. And I'm saying this is a shoot. I absolutely love the name Charlie. When I read the bio, I freaking love it. A little girl's name. I loved that name. Wait, how'd you come at that?
We don't have a cool story. We went through the gamut of possibilities with what we're going to name this little girl. The second we found out it was a little girl, and my real name's Ashley. I grew up in the 90s where every other female that was my age was named Ashley. And I always had to write my last name, my initial, on every paper at school because they had to differentiate between me and the other. I wanted something that was cool and unique, but not too over the top. And my husband had said that at the time he was telling me about a girl that he went to college with, and her name was Charlie. And he literally kind of just brought it up in passing in conversation. He's like, I always thought that was really cool. And it just it stuck. We thought it was cool. We thought it wasn't too edgy. And, gender neutral names are kind of not trendy, but they're becoming more acceptable and more normal. Mm-hmm. And while Charlie, I think, is still kind of unique, and I thought that I was being unique anyway, but I've come to since find out that there's a Disney show called Good Luck Charlie. It's about a little girl.
Oh, well, I didn't even know that. Yeah.
But I think it's cool, it's unique, and maybe when she's in kindergarten, first grade, when kids are really kind of mean and they make fun of her for having a boy's name, she'll hate us. But I
don't even think so, because even the way you spell it is cute.
Yeah, it's
different. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I like that. What's her middle name?
Lynn.
Charlie Lynn. That's a great name. I just want
yeah.
I'm asking, listen, I want to, I don't forget this. Like I said, I got some heat with people there. Some people have heat with me, but I always plug TNA when a TNA guest comes on. I want TNA to thrive. I want TNA to survive. I know the beautiful people got back together last night. I know we're on Destination America, 9 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday nights.
Yes.
Anything else you'd like to add to that? And also, how can people follow you through Twitter, through Facebook, through .com?
I don't do much with social media. I'm very active on Twitter, and people can follow me at mrayne, RAYNE, TNA. You can keep up to date with what's going on with the beautiful people and all of us by following the Impact Wrestling Twitter account. It's just at Impact Wrestling. You pretty much covered it. Wednesday nights, 9 o'clock Eastern, Destination America. We're gearing up for Bound for Glory, our big pay-per-view every year. That's going to be October 3rd, October 4th, that weekend in Charlotte. So tune in for that. And, the beautiful people, like you said, just reunited last night. So, it's hard to tell what kind of trouble we're going to cause.
And the cool thing is, man, a lot of knockouts on the roster right now. And I always love to see that, man. A lot of knockouts on there. A lot going on with the knockouts at TNA.
There's a lot of talented women, too. Like, God, some people just, they don't know what they don't know yet. It's Jade and Marty and Rebel and these girls who really haven't had a chance to have their moment yet. When they have it, jaws are just going to drop because there are so many talented girls in that locker room right now. And, the possibilities are just limitless.
I had Rebel on the show a couple months ago. Never met her, never spoke to her, fell in love with her. I mean,
she's great.
Oh my gosh, just absolutely fell in love with her personality. Listen, now, if you gave us your Twitter handle and everything like that. If Wittenstein follows you, you're going to have to change your Twitter now if he sees this interview. Should I beep it? Should I beep the Twitter?
That poor guy.
He's going to get your Twitter name now. Now he's going to start blowing up your Twitter.
You know what? I'm going to say hi to him on Twitter just to put an end to this so that there's no, he's stalking you. I haven't talked to Brian in so many years. Now you're making me feel bad about it.
I would not open up that Pandora's box because he'll probably invite you to his house to watch Twilight 2 on DVD. So let's stay away from the Wittenstein. I'll deal with Wittenstein for you.
Oh, God.
Madison, I am so happy I got to track you down. It was worth the hunt. It was worth staying on top of you. Even last night, I saw you on there. I hopped on you right away. Hey, tell Madison I want an interview. You answered me back. How about tomorrow? Here we are. Was it that difficult, Madison?
It wasn't, and I'm telling you, it never has been. It's just timing, and I have this time now to just sit, collect my thoughts, have an adult conversation, and it worked out beautifully. See, the timing was perfect, and we were put right here in this moment for a reason.
And also, too, Madison, tell your husband, Josh. I've never met Josh. I only see what I see on Josh at TNA. So, honestly, like I said the same thing to Angelina, I think there should have been part of the process where, my approval was asked. I should have at least met her husband first. I think maybe I should have met Josh first, but it's too late now that damage is done. But tell Josh, I'd love to have Josh on the show. I've never met him, never had a conversation with him. I'd love to have him on my show.
You guys could, swap apperances because he's got a podcast.
Yeah, he does. He does the thing with the. I got to ask you this question, please, because this cracks me up. Okay,
yeah.
Because I know the wrath. I know the wrath. Does Taz still have heat with Josh?
Again, certain things for me, it's easier when ignorance is bliss.
Okay.
I honestly, I don't know. I hope not.
I hope not, too, but I got to have that conversation with Josh because I've been on the other end of that, for the stupidest reasons in the world, and it's not pretty. So, when I heard about that, I was like, oh, God, I don't know Josh from a hole in the wall, but nobody deserves to be on the other side of that. But tell him I'd love to bring him on the show. I'd love to talk to him.
Definitely.
So you're going to nursing school and everything now, but we're gonna grow the family.
Oh, well, I don't know. I have a toddler, so that's keeping me busy.
So we're not talking about that right now. There's a lot going on.
No, I want to wrestle right now. I'm in a good groove. I'm in a good place in life, and I'm going to enjoy it all right now the way it is.
And you're telling everybody there's always light at the end of the rainbow.
There's always light at the end, and there's always life after, and it's always good. Whatever the after is, it's always good.
Well, because during that period, those are the life lessons. You got to go through the trials and the tribulations in order to come out the other end and be a better person, a stronger person, a smarter person, and learn. You need those times in your life. If everything was good, you'd
never learn anything.
Exactly.
Yep.
Well, Madison, thank you so much for coming on. Will you join us again sometime here on the show?
Absolutely. I promise. And it won't take months to coordinate.
Okay.
It might take hours to figure out the technology part of it, but it won't take months to coordinate.
Well, Madison, thank you so much. I love you as a human being.
Thank you, Ben.
Thanks
I love
for joining
you too.
me, and I will keep in touch with you.
All right, sounds good.
Bye, Madison.
Bye.